I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and this is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm taking the taboos of menopause and perimenopause and bringing light to the dark. No bullshit, no shame. It's time for us to gain a new paradigm in female health, out with the old and in with the new, and I'm bringing fresh perspectives from someone in the arena. I've been practicing women's health for nearly 20 years, and I'm spilling the tea on what it means to live at midlife, knowing that the best is yet to come. I'm sharing my Gen X approach to living through this transition. Sassy, a bit sweary, and always honest. Tactical tips and instantly usable information is my aim. I hope to make you laugh and that you learn something new that helps you embrace the change. Together, we bring power to the peri. Onward to the podcast. You know that moment where you get introduced to somebody new and what comes out of their mouth is so interesting and paradigm shifting and affirming and lovely that you're just like, where have you been my whole life? That's how I feel about today's guest, Stroud. Stroud is the comic coach. Has spent 20 years uniquely positioned in the world of business and performing. She has worked with business leaders and their teams, helping them create more impact in their business and life. Working with clients such as Bloomsburg, Airbus, and Barclays. She is the founder of the Leadership Impact School and the spark of Laugh, Think, Play. Has performed theater and comedy shows across the UK, and her new one-woman show, The Show Tales from a Little Laughing Lesbian, will be premiering off the West End in December 2024, before on tour across the UK in 2025. A two-time TEDx speaker, one is a banana, M's first book, Lessons from a Clown, is a #1 bestseller, and her podcast, The Comic Coach Podcast, is streamed worldwide. Now you're thinking, why would Dr. Lovely interview a professional clown and comic coach for the show? This is a great question. Came highly recommended to me by someone I trust who happens to know her really well and said, you know what, you guys have a conversation. And I didn't know what to expect. And it was so powerful what she talked about. I listened. Because really, ultimately, her sweet spot is talking about play and having fun, and how women in particular at midlife, and certainly in the West, have forgotten how to embrace a good time as part of our daily routine. And Em and I went deep on this. It was a fascinating conversation. It's so important to well-being that we play. She tells wonderful stories. We forget. And all we have to do is look at how a child plays to know that it's hardwired. And again, it went out of fashion. Anyway, so we talked about this in multiple different ways, but Em has this she's writing another book. She has this very cool framework of the 12 different ways we play. And she was generous enough to share it with us here in this episode, which I love. I'm so going to listen to it again and take notes this time. I mean, like serious notes, not like crappy notes I'm taking to create the introduction. Anyways, I'm literally going to get my typewriter out. My typewriter. Oh my God. Am I 92? Mortimer. Anyways, I'm going to get my laptop out. I'm going to take really great notes because those 12 ways we play, I promise you, when you hear them, you will see yourself in at least a few of them. And what will happen is you realize you don't need permission to play. You don't need permission to have fun. You just do it in a way that you didn't recognize was playing. I've been thinking about this conversation ever since we had it. And it's such an interesting one. And I really encourage you to check out more about Em. Please go to her website, it's E.M. Stroud, mstroud.com. And I will leave that in the show notes for you. And she has a wonderful newsletter and information about her programs, etc. But ultimately, it was such a fun conversation. I did not expect, I didn't know what to expect, really, but I didn't expect to be blown away. And I feel strongly that this conversation did that for me. So I hope it does the same thing for you. Without further ado, let's hear from M. Stroud, comic coach. As a doctor, I believe that one of the best aging breakthroughs of the last decade is qualia senolytic, and here's why. As we age, our bodies tend to accumulate senescent cells. Senescent cells are also known as zombie cells because they linger in your body long after their useful function, wasting your energy and nutrition, which can contribute to less energy, slower workout recovery, joint discomfort, and basically feeling old. Qualia senolytic is a clinically tested formula with 9 vegan, non-GMO, gluten-free, plant-derived compounds that help your body naturally eliminate senescent cells, helping you feel years younger in just months. And the best part? You only take Qualia senolytic just 2 days a month. It's an easy thing you can do to feel years younger, and it can literally transform how well you age. Go to qualialife.com/lovely to try Qualia senolytic. It's backed by a 100-day money-back guarantee, and use promo code LOVELY, all caps, to get 15% off. As always, I'll leave the links in the show notes. That's Qualia senolytic at qualialife.com/lovely with the code LOVELY to age amazingly well. This is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast, and I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and I'm thrilled today to be joined by a very funny guest. It's going to bring out my humor today, too. The comic coach, M. Stroud. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Nothing like the pressure. So you're going to be funny. Make sure you're funny. Okay, I'll try.
No, but it's so important for us to laugh, and we forget how to do it. And I'm going to tell you the story a little bit earlier. I'll share it now because it seems completely relevant, but I have another podcast, a smaller podcast that I do with a friend of mine. And we realized one day, because she just constantly cracks me up. And so we realized as we were listening to the replay that my microphone was filtering out this laugh I have. And she said, Fiona, that's your magic. We can't do that. Like, you need to sort that out right now.
Yeah, I mean, who decided that I know what we'll do on microphone settings? Oh, we're business, so let's make sure we're going to turn off anything to do with laughter and joy, because that will make, I don't know why the microphone, apologies if you are a microphone technician and you don't sound anything like that. But, can you imagine somebody actually went, now let's make sure we edit out laughing because we want to make sure that we're only delivering. But it's like, we're humans, we're meant to laugh. It's a good thing.
Oh, life is so much better when we are laughing, as far as I'm concerned. Okay,
Right.
your voice, your microphone tech voice, whatever reason, makes me think of that BBC clip from the pandemic time, where there was the guy was being interviewed and the kids came in behind him, and then the nanny.
It was such a moment of beauty. And he was like, I am going to make sure that I'm perfectly fine. Go away, small children. Go. Oh, awkward. And because it's British, it sort of ups the level of us awkwardness, because we're British. So we couldn't possibly say, I'm terribly sorry that my children have just come in. He just left it of like awkwardness trying to move. Yeah, it was a beautiful moment of COVID. There had to be some, right?
Oh, it was so good. I was just, the only thing that would have made it better is if he had stood up to scoot a kid and he only had a suit on from the waist up.
Yes. That would have improved it, especially if you've been wearing like Simpson boxer shorts, just something you were like, wow, that's what journalists wear, Simpson boxer shorts. You're quite old school.
Exactly. That would have been great fun. Well, listen, a comic coach. What the heck is that?
I mean, right? Isn't it amazing what we can create? So yeah, I mean, I spent 20 years in the world of theatre and improvising and making comedy, and therefore I'm a comic. It's something that I've spent time and developed a craft. I was also a clown and still am a clown. And I've also coached some of the top executives in the world across every different business sector that you can possibly imagine. And in the last few years, not few years, that was a lie, in the last few months, what I've realized was, how do I make it so that people that have never met me understand what it is that I do? And when I say I'm a comic and I'm a coach, people go, oh, okay, I kind of get it. And they quite often ask that question. So what does that mean? I'm like, well, I do comedy professionally. I've got my next show just off the West End in December this year. And then I coach people. And I also do that professionally. And I do both really well. And I've done it for 20 plus years. Baby face. But I
Yeah.
have. So I put the two of them together. And I was like, actually, my whole thing is I want to help leaders and people have more impact. And I do that by getting people to laugh and think and play.
How powerful.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Absolutely. I quite often I get asked in my professional experience when I'm
Mm,
interacting with patients, people say, "You make us laugh always." Like that is, and I think that is half of the healing as far as I'm concerned. If
yeah.
I crack people up, then and we're both crying by the time from laughing so hard by the time the door gets open to the next patient, then
Yeah.
I've done my work.
Yeah.
And my parents taught me that. My dad, in particular, was the one who said, you must have a sense of humor, otherwise, life gets really sticky really fast.
I think sometimes in the world that we live in now, and let's face it, the world is not in a great place. I think we can agree. I think
Mm,
humans are not doing a great job in terms of people that are in power and various
mhm.
different decisions. But individually, we can make decisions to allow ourselves to laugh, to allow ourselves to play. And isn't it interesting? Because people come to you probably nervous, probably a little bit scared. What's going to happen to me? How's this going to be? And actually, one of the simplest ways to build rapport, which is why you do it, to build connection, is to giggle, is to laugh. And then as soon as you do that, as soon as that moment and that rapport has been built, then you can shift them into whatever way you're doing. And then people open up in a different way. And it's a magic thing. And you watch people as they're laughing. If I'm doing keynotes, and I get the audience laughing and they're at that place, and you kind of think about it as a narrative arc, and they're at that place and they're laughing. And then you bring something in that gets them to think. And you get to say something that's profound, that's like, here's a moment for you to look at the mirror and see who you are. That's when magic happens. But if it was all really serious, suddenly you just feel like you're being talked at. And I think there's a gift in allowing others to give themselves that permission to laugh.
Well, it levels the playing field, right? Like if we're talking
Yeah.
about patient-doctor interaction, then
Yeah.
we're both laughing at the same thing. That makes us
Yeah.
both human, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think with doctors and well, doctors, lawyers, lots of that type, even accountants, there's a perceived status. And I think lots of really smart people, and I've witnessed it, lots of really smart people will suddenly go, oh, I'm going in to go and see the doctor. I need to make sure that I'm very serious. And suddenly I lose my own brain and my own personality. And it's like, you are super smart. You've got certain skills and expertise, but that status can then mean that people don't tell their whole truth, and they might be too scared to say something. And actually, as soon as you laugh, as you say, you're humans. And it's like, we're just in this room having a bit of a giggle. Now let's have a chat. And voila. No wonder that's why people come back to you all the time.
It's like you take the tension off, right? And
Yeah,
no
exactly.
no more is humor important, I think, than when we're
Mm,
talking about the hormonal transition of midlife called
hmm
menopause and
hmm
perimenopause.
hmm
Um, you have told me before we started the show that you're okay to discuss that a little bit. So I'm assuming you've
Yeah.
got some experience in the perimenopause years because, baby face. So
Yeah.
M's actually 25.
Yes. With a 12-year-old. Almost worked. If he'd said 30, we could have gone with it, but
I
25's pushing it. We
Well, you
had
need to tell
everybody
me.
until that moment. Yeah.
You need to tell me ahead of time what the joke is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hang on. We didn't
Right.
set it up. Hang on a second.
No.
Ding, 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 ding. I am
No.
30.
Yes.
Yes. No, no, no,
Okay.
no, no. I'm actually, I actually love my age. I'm very happy being 46 because this is being each year as I get older, the more content and happy I am, and the more
Mm.
life feels fulfilling. So I'm, so I'm very proud, although I jest, I am genuinely very proud of being a 46-year-old woman that's gently creeping towards the menopause. And as my lovely wife says, you're definitely creeping towards it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's gentle so far. And she's like, just you wait, and then you're going to eat some toffee. And that was her experience.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
No, the problem is I hate toffee, but apart from that, it's fine.
Oh, you can have something else. There's all kinds of
I know,
goodies. You got those.
I know.
You got the licorice all sorts. How do you feel about those?
Sea licorice all sorts?
Nice.
Do you know what
Yes.
do you recognize that as? And for those of you that aren't watching on video, I'm showing one of my tattoos, which is Bertie Bassett, which is a British
Yes.
it's basically the embodiment of licorice all sorts. And so yes,
Good.
I do
Okay.
like licorice all sorts. I'm there. Phew.
My
Just
mom
solved
was.
my menopause challenge. Thanks. I didn't know I had
There you
one,
go.
but you've now solved it. Awesome.
You won't be
This
taffy.
is a job. Fiona, you should be a doctor. Talk about
Right?
menopause.
And just play one on TV.
Yes. Yeah, then you don't have to do all the research and stuff. You just get given lines.
No, that's way too
Awesome.
hard. That's
Yeah,
way
no,
too
no.
hard.
Yeah.
My mom was raised in Scotland, so I know plenty about the British sweeties, and licorice all
Okay.
sorts are some of my favorites. Now, finding one that doesn't have gluten in it is another story. So if someone's listening to this episode and you know where I can get the licorice all sorts without gluten in them, please let me know.
Okay. Okay. I am sending a strongly worded letter to the company that my dad helped form to go, hello, have you not sorted out? Yeah. Have you not sorted out gluten-free? On it.
Yeah. Yes, I know, right? Because the best part, my favorite are the little discs with the blue and red beads on the outside. Do those have a name?
Special.
Is that really what they're called?
No, I just made that up. But if you say anything with enough confidence, people will believe you. It's like, yeah, they're the special ones.
They are.
They are.
Meanwhile,
No, they really are. They really are. They're kind of magical. And if you've never tried one, try one. You're missing out.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah.
You bite into them and then there's this lovely gooey center. It's
Gooey
not really gooey.
weirdness. What is it? No one knows, but we like it. I like the coconutty ones with the licorice in the middle of the best. They're my favorite. So basically the ones that are kind of Bertie's head.
That make his,
that sounds wrong. Yeah.
Oh no. I know what you're talking about. I know it.
Yeah, good.
So play at midlife.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what we're talking about here.
Yes.
How do we get it? How do we embrace it?
I think you have to first understand it a little bit more, because I think as adults, there are so many, in particular women that I meet, when they're quite happy to do oh yeah, I can see the laughing and the thinking and I can see all of that. That's a good idea. Those that are kind of interpersonal development and stuff like that. And that's all great. And then literally I go, now we're going to play. And suddenly I get this, don't make me play. Please don't make me play. I'm going to look stupid. I don't want to do it. I don't know how to play. And it makes me so sad, because I then kind of go, were you all children? And they're like, yes, but please don't make me play. And somehow I think as adults, and especially adult women, I think we so terrified about what other people are going to think and about looking foolish and getting it wrong, that as a result, we don't allow ourselves to play. And, play has been my practice. I might not have a doctor in front of my name, but I've been doing this for 20 plus years. My first book was called Lessons from a Clown. I live play. And one of the things for me, and what I'm researching for my second book, is that there are 12 ways that adults play. And this is what I've worked out. And so I built this on as a really great guy called Dr. Stuart Brown. He's an American play psychologist. And he'd identified that there were 8 ways that adults play. And I didn't think that was enough. So I've built on it. So I think there's 12 ways that adults play. And when, in particular, women, you go, it's okay, I can tell you the different options of play. So they're like, oh, okay, fine. And then they realize that perhaps they have been playing more than they thought they had, but they hadn't categorized it as play. So there's that, I didn't know that was play. So, oh my gosh, I have been playing. And then what is so important is then, how do we then create the space and time to play? Because play and fun and joy is generally, especially for women in midlife, because they're doing lots of caring, etc., quite often they just don't create any time, and they hope it's going to happen by osmosis, and it doesn't. And so you have to put energy and you have to put practice into it. And so would you like me to tell you what the 12 ways of play are?
If you're happy to share, I'm so happy to hear them.
Of course. So There is the comic. I'm starting with that because it's one of the ways that I play, unsurprisingly, considering I've branded myself with that. Doesn't need any explanation. So there's the comic. There is the spectator. So think about COVID. Now, whether you're watching hockey games, football games, soccer games, whatever games you watch, during COVID, when there was no spectators, it felt weird. So when you are going to watch something or even a music concert, it doesn't have to be sport, you are actively fully present. And the thing about play is that while you're doing it, you are present and you are in it. And so everything else for a little period of time can just move to the side. So that's what play gives us. I believe play really helps us become fully present. So you have the spectator. Then you have the producer. And the producers are people that, yes, you get the film and you get the TV producers, but you also get those people that like producing, I don't know, courgettes and other such things in their garden. They like to see the fruits of their labor in that way. Then you get the competitor. Now, I don't think I need to explain what a competitor is. And if you're listening to that and you're a competitor, you're like, that's me. And you'll probably go, I won first. You know, whenever I ask a bunch of people who's the competitor, their hands go up straight away. And I'm like, yes, we know. You know, they're the kind of person you can go, how was your weekend? And they'll go, yeah, excellent. How was yours? And then they'll go, mine was probably better. And you're like, okay, chill out. So you have competitors. Yeah. And we all know competitors. I am a competitive person. So it's one of the ways that I play. Then you have the dreamers. Now, those are the types of people that will generally play like this. And again, if you're not watching on video, it means that you're just looking and playing in your own head. And quite often, dreamers get told that they're not focused or they're not, but actually they're playing. They're having a beautiful time in their head. They don't actually need anybody else to come and tell them off or to do anything because they're just having a delightful time. Then you have the movers. And the movers are those people that, like dancing, like doing yoga, like running, like walking, but not interested in competition, but love the feel of moving, right? Have you recognized yourself in any of these so
Oh,
far?
yes. Yes. In
Okay.
fact, I was just thinking this is incredibly liberating to hear this
Okay.
because, especially for, I'm going to assume that I'm like many other women in my age group. I don't prioritize play because I don't know how to. Right.
Yeah.
And I can't, I haven't yet made the connection between being more productive, being more creative, being more fully realized as a human being with
Uh-huh.
play.
Yeah.
But I've just recognized myself in at least three of those, if not more. So please go
And
on.
I
Yes.
will. And most people generally recognize themselves in 3 or 4 ways. But as soon as you know the other ways, it gives you a permission to go and try different things. And quite often as adults, we go, well, this is how I do it. And then you don't see anything else because perhaps as a kid, you didn't enjoy something or anything else like that. So you then get the makers. Now, the makers could sound quite close to producers, but they're the people that are a little bit more crafty. They like using sort of knitters, crochet, creating things from a sort of that kind of maker perspective. And I was like, they're the same, maker and producer. But when I spoke to producers versus makers, they had very clear identities. So there's the maker as well. Then there is the collectors. I am a collector. I collect books, trainers, and vinyl. And if you ask me where I'm happy shopping, give me a record store. I can lose myself for hours just looking at all the different vinyl. Very happy. Lose myself in a trainer shop. Really happy. Not concerned about anybody else, etc. Same as a bookstore, right? So there are those people that like to collect. Then we have, and this is so far from me, Fiona, I can't begin to tell you. Then we have the organizers. Now,
Okay.
these are the people that love to organize things and generally love an Excel spreadsheet and love moving things around on Excel spreadsheet. I kid you not, I was sharing these 12 ways that we play at a conference recently. I don't know, 500-600 people. And this woman stood up in the middle and she went, "That is me. Finally, I can tell my husband that I do play." And then she had this complete shock that she had done it, sat back down, had gone bright red. And then at the end, she went, "Honestly, I didn't think I'd play." And she's like, "I love organizing things. It makes me so happy. I don't think about anything else." And quite often, organizers will love the organizing far more than the actual event. They're
Yes.
quite happy just moving stuff around. So there's those as well. And which ones have I not said? Then, of course, we have the storyteller. So those are the people that love utilizing words. You're a storyteller, you know, it's that, how do we create, how do we share different stories? How do we engage? The use of language. There's a joy to it, you know, there's a real joy about creating stories, and, you know, and people who revel in language, right? Then you have the hedonist. Now, hedonists are quite often people that you don't realize are hedonists, because with hedonists, they don't have any desires, they don't need to tell anybody about it, but they're the kind of people that are like, yeah, I love riding down a mountain on a mountain bike, or jumping out of a plane, or going scuba diving, stuff with a bit of an edge. And perhaps when younger might have been a bit of a party head as well, but there's a seeking in terms of that, pushing things on an edge. And the reason I say quite often, hedonists, it's very much inward, and it's very happy doing the activity. That is how they play. And I was talking to a room of accountants, and I was asking, you know,
Sorry.
people to put their, yes, I know. Yeah. This is
Go
quite a
on.
forward-thinking account. This was a forward-thinking accountancy firm. They
I'd
were like, maybe
say.
we need to play a bit more. I'm like, uh-huh. And I was getting people to put their hands up, you know, which ones do they recognize? And then I kid you not, this man called Dave, couldn't have made it up. And I said, hedonist. He put his hand up. And I'm not joking, the entire room looked at this man who'd worked there for 22 years. And they were like, Dave, you're not a hedonist. And he went, yeah, I am. I go jet skiing every weekend, and I've jumped out of planes pretty much. Oh, actually, I teach other people how to jump out of planes. And no one knew. No one knew. He's like, well, why do I need to tell you that? It's just what I do. I was like, wow. And then the final way that we play is the explorer. Now, explorers obviously can involve travel and going and exploring different locations and things like that. But explorers also can be, and my missus is definitely one, where you're sitting and you're watching a movie, and she'll go, oh, who's that? Who's that actor? And then she'll get out her phone, which she doesn't very often do because she's very good at not looking at her phone. She'll get out her phone. She'll go, IMDb. Oh, did you know he was? Did you know he was in? And I'll be like, no, I don't know he's in, because I'm trying to watch the film. And she will quite happily go down a rabbit hole for the next 20 minutes going, did you know he was also in James Bond when he was 8? No, I don't care. That's you, isn't it? I can see you're like, that is so me. Your lovely husband,
Yeah.
lucky him,
I
is
paused
like,
the film.
oh, you were, oh, you pause it. No, I'm
I
not that
paused it.
kind. You're like, let's pause it and see what these actors did, shall we? Because that won't change the motion at all.
And
And
when I'm
so
reading,
very,
when I'm reading those
yeah.
books that have all kinds of juicy details, especially if it's like geographic locations that I've never been to, I've
Mhm.
never heard of, I
Yeah.
flip over to a browser and I start looking at, tell me about the Rock of Gibraltar.
You were playing. You were playing. And
That
so
is so
those are the
liberating.
12 ways that we play. And as soon as, especially for women, as soon as they go, oh, I could. And then I ask, you know, what one would you be curious to go and try? It doesn't mean you're signing up. And quite often they'll go, I'd love to try X. I'd love to try being a collector, but I've just never had the time. And that's generally the thing with midlife women. When it comes down to play, I don't have the time. I'm
Mm.
scared, and I don't give myself permission.
Yes.
And what makes me sad is quite often women will come up to me and they'll be like, my kid tries to get me to play and I don't know how.
Mm.
And I'm always like, then let them teach you.
Mm.
Put everything else down and let them teach you. If you're lucky enough to have kids, just let them teach you. And if you don't have kids, one of the things is, okay, ask yourself, when you were a kid, what was it that made your heart sing? Was it playing with imaginary friends, which probably means you're a dreamer? Was it painting? Was it making stuff? Was it building Lego? Was it digging through sand? Whatever it was, go back to that, because that's your starting place. And as soon as you allow yourself to go back to your starting place and just create little moments of time, then suddenly you can go, I've got 15 minutes and I'm going to go and build something. I'm not going to be on tech. I'm not going to be on a thing. And actually, I'm going to do a jigsaw, because then I'm going to be fully present. And it's amazing because when women in particular just give themselves that bit of time, it can shift how they're feeling emotionally. It can shift how they are.
Amazing. I have so many things I want to ask you about here, but I think the next place I want to go with this, as we start to pull apart these 12,
Hmm.
categories because I see
Yeah.
myself in a whole pile of these. By the way, I'm an organizer too. So when you
You can
talked
be my
about the
friend. I need more organizers in my life. It's good.
listen, I've got the most disorganized husband. I got plenty of work to do there, but
Okay.
if I find an opening, I'll let you
Let me know.
I will. What I'm wondering is, as we see, this is the doctor in me coming out first, and
Hmm.
then I want to get into these categories a little bit. What I see in mental health these days, which is,
Yeah.
I've been practicing for almost 20 years, and I have never seen human beings as sad and
Hmm.
tortured, for lack of a better term, than they are right now. And I'm having
Hmm.
conversations with patients that I have never had in all these years. And frankly, as a chiropractor, I'm not all that well prepared for them, but here we are. And I can't help but wonder, as I feel myself reacting to each of these categories that you
Hmm.
just listed, and I think, as you just said, you put down your tech, 15 minutes, you have it go. But I've got my knitting kit is right next to me, right here on the floor.
Hmm.
It kind of goes around the house with me. So if I get a few minutes, I take out my needles and I do my thing, right? So I'm
Yeah.
also a maker. But is that part of what's missing, do you think? Like, is this why we're in such a state? Is because we're making the wrong things important?
Hugely. And I completely agree. And it's definitely what I'm seeing as well. Having coached people for 20 plus years of different ages and everything else like that. And the thing we're so on it all the time. And when I mean on it, it's the socials, it's the internet, it's the constant bombardment of other people's noise. And actually, what we don't do is that beautiful thing called play. And actually, when we are playing, everything can just pause for a little bit. And it's really important. And this is something that I feel really strongly about. I'm in no way suggesting that when you play, suddenly everything becomes amazing, suddenly the world turns, or anything else like that. But what it can do, and what it's done for me, is that it can shift how you feel for that moment, which is as true as all of the rest of the bad stuff. So I'll give you a tangible example, if I may. While COVID was going on, there was one particular day where two of my friends, very close to me, were both admitted to hospital. They're both okay now, but I didn't know this at the time. And this is when in the UK, couldn't go and see them, couldn't leave the house, etc. And obviously I was worried, and my brain started to go, I can't go and see them. Are they okay? And William, my son, he was about 8.5, maybe 9 at the time. And he came up to me and he's like, Mum, let's play a game. And even though I talk about play and utterly live it, there was this moment where I was just genuinely worried about my friends. And I was like, no, William, I don't have time. Let's do that later. And he was like, come on, Mum. Come on. You talk about play. Come on. Because obviously he knows what I do, right? And I acquiesced because it was COVID. And I went, okay. And he came up with this game. Now, it does sound a little bit like beer pong, but it wasn't beer pong. I promise you, if you know what beer pong is, it's a game we play in the UK. So we got 6 glasses, and in a way that only a 9-year-old boy could do, in 6 of those glasses, he made the most revolting concoctions of drinks known to mankind. So, milk with a dash of coffee, followed with some Tabasco. It
Ugh.
curdled. It was revolting. You get the idea. So we had 6 glasses of these concoction, and then 6 glasses that we had to throw a table tennis ball into. And if I got it into one of them, he had to drink the correlating drink, and vice versa. And we played this game for about 40 minutes, and then I drank it and it was disgusting, and he drank it and it was disgusting, and all we were doing, and we couldn't get the ball in, and we were playing, right? We were moving. If you want to go back to the categories, we were moving and we were doing that, right? And then we stopped playing. And I really clocked within myself, I feel different. Does it change the reality that my two friends are in hospital? No. But for that 40 minutes, play shifted me so that I could see it from a different perspective. Still, and both were still true. And that for me is the thing of, if you allow yourself these little pockets, and I think what we don't do is none of us prioritize play and fun and joy, because we say, oh, well, I'll do that when I'm on holiday. I'll do that when the kids are older. I'll do that when. And actually, if you go away from the West, adults in various different cultures play all the time. You know, they dance more, which is moving. It's play, right? They come together in communities and they play games. And they, you know, there was a fascinating thing all about a particular culture where they play with eagles and they teach them and they teach their boys and they go off for weeks and they just go and play with these eagles. Because what's life for, if not for also living and enjoying?
I love this. By the way, what you're
Mm.
doing essentially is giving women permission to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're aware of this, right?
Yeah.
This is
It's a,
huge.
it's
This is
awesome.
huge.
And yeah.
I find so often this comes up for women in midlife is that we need to be given permission. It doesn't need to be by anybody of authority. It just needs to be another human being and
Yeah.
perhaps a compassionate human that understands what's going on. We literally need permission to self-care, to play, to laugh,
Hmm.
to have fun, and these
Hmm.
kinds of things. And it's literally the most powerful thing we can do,
Hmm.
whether it's coaching or doctoring or whatever. So I thank you for that.
Mm.
It's just a splendid thing.
It really is. And you know, and sometimes I rock up at places and everyone's been so serious. And I'm really serious about the outcomes of my work. But people get so serious. And it's like, come on, people. Come on. Come on, people, especially women. Come on. You
Yes.
can do it. You know, it's like we're allowed. We're allowed. And when I witness women in particular allowing themselves and then going, where am I haven't laughed like this for years. Or, oh my God, I really need to start playing with my kids. And when I see it and their light comes back and they're like, and I quite often I was terrified about hearing you speak because I thought you were going to get me to do things. Yeah, I was really quite scared about you. I was quite scared about how you were going to do it. And actually, I've really enjoyed it. It was really fun, you know. It's like good because all I'm doing is going, just remember it's in you. Just remember it's in you, you know, because it's in all of us and we'll all play in our different ways. But how magical when you actually let yourself do that. Like when you knit, how do you feel after you finish knitting?
Oh, I'm so peaceful. There's
Right?
not a ticker tape in my brain of all the things that need to be happening all the time, which is why I carry
Yeah.
the damn thing around with me
Are
because I need that
you
more.
are you just knitting the longest scarf known to mankind? Like just keep going, knit
Just,
one, purl one.
I hear Lenny Kravitz needs another one. He's got a few. He needs another one.
Fair, fair.
If that's my claim to fame. As we move through menopause, it's no secret that our bodies change. As women, we are navigating the ups and downs that come with aging, especially when it comes to hormones. That's why I'm really excited to share something with you that's been a game changer for me. I've been using the bioidentical hormone creams from Hormone Solutions by Karen Martell, and they are fantastic. They are clean, over the counter, and contain USP grade hormones, which means they are high quality and effective without any harmful ingredients. The best part, you don't need a prescription to get them. Karen's creams are designed to help with the symptoms of peri and postmenopause, and I have noticed a real difference in how I feel using them. The Estro 2 Rejuvenation Cream in particular has been amazing for my skin. Not only does it help with the hormonal chaos of menopause, I've been using it as a face cream too. Research shows that estrogen on the skin can reduce fine lines, shrink pores, and even helps to build collagen. It's like a mini facelift in a bottle, and it's an affordable way to support your skin as you age. Karen's products will help you reclaim control over your body and help you look great. We deserve to feel good as we age. If you're ready to take back control and feel your best, I highly recommend trying Karen's creams. They come with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's nothing to lose. You can even take 10% off your first purchase with the code LOVELY. Please go to karenmartell.com/shop/ to learn more and make your first order. Of course, as always, I will leave the links in the show notes. Thanks, Karen. So when did we, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. I have my own thoughts on this. Why did we lose the desire to play, and why did it kind of fall out of favor? Because you just said something really powerful, which was, it's in us. It's already in
Mm,
us. It's just we have this sort of cultural programming that says adults don't play. What happened?
yeah. I mean, I think on a historical level, as somebody that's observed it, this is not something that I've researched deeply. So, if you're talking to a researcher and a doctor about play, they might be able to tell you more. But if you really look at it from especially in a Western human lens, as soon as we hit the industrial age, there was a whole, this is when we're doing things, this is what you do. And Sundays is when the families come together and we go to church, but the women will go home and they'll make sure that everybody is fed and watered, etc. Where was the space?
Hmm.
So if I kind of look at it through, and then we had the war. And interestingly, during the war, both the First and the Second World War, there was more pleasure. And I'm not just talking, there was more play, there was more dancing, more singing, more music, more life, because life was on an edge. And so when you look at war films and you look at those things, actually people were playing far more. Life was horrible. It was awful. I'm not suggesting let's go back to World War II time. But if you actually witness it as humans, everybody played more. They made more fun. That's why whenever you watch a war film, why do you think there's always, they come together and they dance? It's play, it's movement. And they come together because it's actually, that is how we connect, to go back to what we said earlier about laughing. And I think as we've moved through the decades, again, just as observer, play has become, as capitalism has grown, and I'm not anti-capitalist, but as soon as capitalism has grown, there's this constant desire, we must get more. How do businesses grow? I'm going to grow the economy. What's the GDPR? All of these things. How do we grow? And it's like, hang on a minute, when is enough? And so if you're always trying to grow, what you're never doing is allowing yourself just to be. And as soon as you allow yourself just to be, then you've probably got more time to play. But if you're always in this got to have, got to have, got to have, then play seems superfluous. Play seems
Mhm.
like, well, I don't have time for that. I've got to grow my company. I've got to grow. I've got to get a new job. I've got to grow more children, whatever it might be, right? Growth.
Mhm.
And I guess it's that thing for me where I just go, somehow I think with our big smart brains, we've actually moved away from the simplicity of being human. And there's a reason why now, as we're moving into 2024, there's more talking of wellness, of, balance, of mental well-being, of mental health, because actually we've made it so complicated. But we're now in a place where we're having to react to all of these challenges. Whereas I just wonder if every doctor said, right, you have to go and play for 45 minutes every day, I truthfully do not believe we would be in the mental health crisis that we're in right now.
Okay. I have to agree with you. I am not a mental health professional, but I see the brain health, I think, outcomes that would come of just giving yourself
Mm,
permission to play. And I totally agree. I think the those of us that were raised by people who were raised by folks in the war that actually served in the war, there was a certain productivity we had to create
mm,
as a human being to show our worth. And you mentioned that we're in this era of wellness and taking care of mental health and that sort of thing. And I think that's us coming back and saying, wait a minute, that served back then, but do we
mm,
still need to hang on to that? And that's a bit of the ancestral baggage, I think, that we certainly are hanging on to. But that productivity thing gets us caught in a trap very, very, very often. Now it's interesting. I have a girlfriend in functional medicine, and she said to me years ago, she was off to a trip and she had a stack of journals printed off like this. And
mm-hmm,
somebody said to her in the group, well, but it's your vacation. Why are you reading research? And she's like, because this is my play. I love this.
mm,
And I really, it's never left me all these years later. I think, oh, I'm totally that guy too. I can go down a rabbit hole in the medical
mm-hmm,
research in the area that I'm interested in and love it. But somehow we think, somebody comes along and passes a judgment on that and says,
Hmm.
you're just being too serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? Because quite often people say, yeah, no, I don't play. And then when I dig into it, I'm like, yeah, you do. It's
Yeah.
just you've not seen it as play.
Yeah.
Or, if I meet people with very grown up job titles, I'm an engineer, I don't play. And I'm like, but as an engineer, do you create how we get over bridges, over like rivers? Yeah. I mean, I don't know how that isn't playful. Like when
It
you were a boy
is.
in the bath, you'd put stuff and see if things would roll over it. And that's play. It's just now that you're doing it with steel and on a bigger scale. It's still play. And just watching people going, oh, yeah. But quite often the challenge is that people who are actually doing stuff that does link to how they played as a kid then get so caught up in all of the business side of it that they
Mm.
forget the joy.
Mm.
They forget, and they're not lucky like you and I, where we get to go and connect with people and laugh with people. And it's like, I am now in business and I have to be very serious, or I'm a woman in midlife. And so I've got 2 children that are now teenage. I mean, who created that? Teenagers and menopause at the same time. Ha ha! That was obviously a man. Plus we're also looking after probably a lot of elderly people, and you just kind
Yes.
of go, holy moly.
Mhm.
But the balance and the payoff is, yeah, let yourself play, let yourself laugh, and then you can carry on doing all the 9,000 tasks. But you know what? No one cares if you haven't done the ironing that moment. It's all right.
Mm.
Go play. Unless, of course, which I have met, I find this hard. Some people do find ironing playful.
Oh, I love laundry. I'm one of those weirdos.
Okay, you are quite odd. I mean, up until that point, I was there with you, but now it's like, you've heard it here first. Dr.
Yeah.
Fiona Lovely is
Well,
one of those weirdos.
it's kind. I am 100%. I think it goes under that organization thing.
Okay, yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
to
it
know.
does completely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what
As you can
listen,
see, I
I
don't
mean,
iron. That's me ironing in the sky.
I think my husband should step in and do this interview. I think the two of you would get along so well.
Yeah.
Because
You
he's
organize? No.
no, no, he's quite the opposite. No, exactly.
Mm,
And the way he does his laundry, because this is how it is in our house. This is so we
mhm,
stay together. He
mhm.
does his laundry and he doesn't go
Yep.
anywhere near mine, right? And I
Fair.
watch him mix colors and light colors and dark colors together. I'm like, oh my God, like my brain just blew up. I have to leave. Like I can't do it. I'm out of here.
Yeah. And he's like, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, if he wants to screw it up, that's fine. That's his stuff and he can do whatever he wants. It's all fine. Something you just said about the war made me think of, have you seen the Netflix series The Crown?
A little bits and bobs. Yeah.
Okay.
Remember, I live in the UK. They're just up the
Yes.
road.
Yes.
Hello.
I think it's more like, hello.
Oh, very good. Stuff you didn't know you were going to do this morning. She's going to try and be the queen.
She just it's sort of it's not even a like anyways whatever there is a
No, yes.
there it's a scene in I believe it's the last season
Okay.
where Elizabeth and Margaret find themselves of course at a party
Hmm.
during wartime Britain,
Okay.
and young Elizabeth finds herself dancing with a stranger,
Mm.
and of course very taboo for someone who's going to become the future Queen of England. And anyways, it just puts a point on it. We've got all these roles and we think there's rules with the roles and it all comes down to
Uh-huh.
that productivity, but that permission to say, okay, well, let's see, like you said with the engineer, I mean,
Mm.
he's been playing with Lego all his life probably, right, or
Yeah.
blocks or whatever else as a kid,
Yeah.
and he takes a career in it. That is a far better off person mentally, I think, than
Yep.
somebody who is told they're good with numbers, so they should become an accountant. We're going after the accountants today. So I'm the daughter of an accountant before anybody wants to come for me. So, we I think we're well served to know these 12 categories as you've talked about and say,
Mm.
okay, what's the thing I love to do and I'm drawn to most naturally? And what is the way
Mm.
I can make a career out of this, a career out of it? Is this part of
Mm.
what you do with your coaching practice?
Um, yeah, sometimes. I kind of just within my practice. I mean, firstly, it's odd when I call it a practice. It's like, I show up, right? And for me, I've been coaching people for a really long time, and I look back at my younger coach self, and I used to show up and be like, right, I've learned all these tools and these techniques, and I'd be like, right, I'm meeting up with Fiona, I'm going to do this one and this one and this one. And bless my younger self, because my intention was right, and they all did all right, and I got good kind of, they were like, Emma's great, and da-da-da. Whereas now I just literally show up with a blank piece of paper and we play.
Mm.
And at the heart of my approach is, how do I help others utilize playfulness and creativity and different ways of thinking? And I, in essence, just ask them just to open, and I ask different questions to perhaps anybody. I quite often work with people that have had a bucket load of executive coaching, very grown up, and they're very successful. But actually, what they've realized is that they've kind of lost that joie de vivre, or
Mm.
they've just gone so in because they've been so busy getting very successful that they have no idea what fun even looks to them anymore. And so when I hold people, I just show up just like I'm showing up right now. We sit and we chat, and I ask questions, and then sometimes we'll play games. Quite often we won't, but it's that whole thing of going, I'm going to hold a space, and it's going to be a light space, and it's a safe space. And as soon as people feel safe, because if you think about kids again, in order for kids to go and play, you need a boundary of a playground, right? You need there to be that safety. If you are not safe, uh, whether it's emotionally, financially, spiritually, physically, if you are not safe, play is going to be very hard for you to do. So it's really important that you have that safety. And as soon as you have that safety, or create it just for a moment in time, then you can play. And that, in essence, is what I do. I go, right, okay, you want to come work with the comic coach? I did a day with M. How did I come up with this name? You can't imagine what it is, can you? With an amazing woman. And
Mhm.
she was, bless her, she's in a place of massive transition and change. And she's questioning whether she wants to stay in a big corporate role or whether she wants to set up her own thing. I give her the safety, and we do things in a different way, because that's been my experience and my journey. And I share the right things I like to think the right time. And so there's a lightness, but when you're light, you can go dark and you can go heavy.
Mhm.
And it's amazing. I'm sure you get this. I'll be laughing with somebody, and then they're like, I can't believe I'm crying. And they'll be crying their eyes out. And what I did not expect to be crying. I'm coming to work with the comic coach. But for me, it's like theatre. And I've just come back. It's the end of the day here in the UK. And I've just come back from rehearsing my new show. If you're going to create something that's going to make people really laugh, then you also have to have those moments where it's really slow, and you get them to really think and feel things, because that is where the magic exists between the two. If it's just laughing for an hour, you get exhausted and you can't do it. But when you take people on a journey, and that for me is at the heart of all the coaching that I do, it's the drama mask, it's the comic and the tragic. You have to know
Mhm.
that both sides exist. Otherwise, you're living in some weird elixir.
Wow. That's fascinating, actually. I hadn't thought of it that way, that whole light and dark thing, but that goes back to the spiritual teachings from
Mm.
millennia ago.
Yeah.
You must have balance in the system, right?
Of course. And if you think about it, it's, if you look back through Chinese time, or anywhere in kind of Europe and Africa, there's always been a fool, right? And the fool's job has always been to be the observer and to say what they see is going on. And when you go back to, the Chinese court or the European courts, we're going back, thousands of years, the only reason that these people weren't killed was because they made everybody laugh, but they said what they saw that was going on, and they held it. And when you can do that, and you can actually really utilize humor so that there's a safety, and people can then hold a mirror in a different way, that's when magic happens. And I've spent a lot of my career delving into the crafts of how can I be an effective observer without putting my own bias on it, and then saying what I see. And so as a coach, it's kind of one of my superpowers.
Amazing. So essentially, you're a professional fool. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I am a professional clown. My first book was called Lessons from a Clown.
Yes.
And yeah, I think Shakespearean fool, the court
Yes.
jester.
Alas,
My
poor Yorick. I knew him well.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. My clown is called, I've three clowns, but my main clown that I co-wrote my book with is orange, and the craft of clowning is very dear to me, and it's massively misunderstood, because clowns especially in the UK, it's used as quite a derogatory term about our politicians, and our politicians are so far away from being clowns because we're the truth tellers, we're the observers. So yeah, you are talking not only to a comic coach, I am also a clown, and a
I
proud
love
one.
this. There is a
Mm.
rumor that you have a TED Talk in a banana suit.
That rumor is also true. I have, as far as I know, I am the only person to do a TED Talk as any fruit, but I'm definitely the only one to do it as a banana. So yeah, my first, because I've actually done two TED Talks because I'm greedy. My first one was me dressed as a banana, because what else would you want to do?
Well, of course. I mean, of all the fruit to pick, that is the most funny fruit.
I mean, it is, and I mean, as I'm just sharing to your
What is,
viewers,
yes,
my first tattoo. Just move my microphone so I sound like a
yes,
professional. In my first one says "Be more banana," which
banana.
which
I
was
like it.
indeed my first TED talk. Have more fun and joy in your life.
Wow, I love that.
Mm.
So a few months ago, actually, I interviewed a pleasure coach on the show.
Nice.
And many of the things you're saying to me today remind
Hmm.
me of her teachings.
Okay.
And how similar are the play and pleasure activities? I think they're not that different. I mean, I think she calls herself a pleasure coach because Instagram would ban her if she actually called herself a sex coach, which is ultimately what she is. As you're talking, I'm thinking
Mm.
there's so many similarities here. And what's
Yeah.
interesting, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think there are. I I'm really aware that there's a whole world of expertise and knowledge, which is and to do with, having an awesome sex life, and how do we pleasure. And I think as women, how do we make sure that we encourage pleasure, that we talk about pleasure, that it's embraced. I've got this amazing friend that is a queen of pleasure in the UK, and she basically empowers women to understand what's going to make them feel amazing, and orgasm, and how do you teach your male partners and things like that. And I think it's an awesome thing to do, and I'm always really curious to go and play in any way, with my misses and stuff. And I think that's a really brilliant thing to do, because I think we're often quite shy about, again, expressing our needs and talking about what are the things that can help us feel good, especially as we're going through midlife and moving into menopause, where we get the narrative it's going to be awful, everything's going to be horrific. It's like, it doesn't. There will be tough times, but you also can find joy. You can also find moments. You can find tofu and other foods such as licorice, as I've learned earlier. It's this thing of, I think for women, we get so sort of bombarded with everything's going to be hard, that I think we then go, it's going to be hard, and then we're psychologically telling ourselves, of course, it's going to be hard. So about the pleasure, for me, I leave that to those people that have really gone down and played in that road, and I think it's a really important one for me, because I'm mindful, for a lot of people, play is like, oh, hello, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, I mean, in the bedroom, and other such cockney kind of comedy. And I'm like, no, 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 I'm not talking about that kind of play.
Yeah.
I'm talking the play where, it is that, it's just a different way of playing, right? So I try and keep them separate, because I'm not an expert in
Mhm.
pleasure, but I'm an
Mhm.
expert in play. And actually, what I think is so awesome, the more people that are talking about pleasure, because they then are like, oh, I'm sexually enjoying my life. They then come and find people like me, because they're like, what, how else can I feel better? I don't need drugs. I don't need booze. I
Mhm.
can play. And if I play, all this cool stuff is going on in my head, and all this dopamine's being, I feel
Mhm.
better, and I,
Mhm.
I just went to this festival in the UK, and it was basically the only way I can describe it was like scout camp for adults. And there were just countless different play activities. So in the woods, you could go beekeeping, you could do sound baths, you could do dancing, you could do carving. Every different type of play was covered. And I was there, and I was speaking at this festival, and I was just like, this is what we need. It was a weekend of adults playing. There was no kids, you know, and
Wow.
that to me is like, we have to do more of that. you know, but it's not
Yes.
about having to go to stuff. It's like, how do you curate those moments for yourself?
I love this. Scout camp for adults. Hello.
Hmm. It's called Camp Wildfire. I'll give them a shout out. I'm not
Oh,
affiliated with them at all, but Camp Wildfire, it's a very cool thing in the UK. And I think they do like 3 weekends. It's really good.
mm. And if you want to get something like this started in Canada, let me know. I'll help with
Oh, well,
rollout.
cool.
Actually, my husband would be all over it, and he's super
Yeah, you'll do
handy.
the
So,
organizing, and then I'll be like,
okay.
oh, look, everything's ironed and we
Yes,
seem
I
to have
will.
knitted flags.
Yes, you know it. And I've got my nitty friends. I can get them on it too. So we've got lots
Nice.
of it. One of the things I wanted to say to finish the conversation about pleasure and play is that the pleasure coach, because I asked her, I said, so many women have issues with libido. And I see a lot of overlay here, right? We're not
Hmm.
playing.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's with our clothes on or with off, right?
Yeah,
Or,
exactly.
or off. So I asked her, I said, what do we do? Because at midlife, there's so much going on. The last thing we're thinking about is sex. So how do we do it? And she said, you need to cultivate a pleasure practice. So you need to
Nice.
schedule it. Isn't that great?
I mean,
So,
I also just think more straight women need to hang out with lesbians and then they'd be fine.
oh, I love that idea. Yes, please.
I mean, not so that you can sleep with us because you're straight and that's all fine. But it's like when I hear about all of these lovely midlife women who are straight and they're like, yeah, I hardly have any sex. I'm like that.
Yeah.
That's not our experience. And you talk to most lesbians, it's not our experience, you know? And I
Well,
don't know why that is. I haven't studied it, you know?
and I know a little bit, but I think one of the things, and I don't know if this is opening up a can of worms, but there are a lot of women who at
Hmm.
midlife go, I've never all been all that interested in being penetrated.
Hmm.
And now that the hormones that make me want to procreate are
Hmm.
gone, maybe
Hmm.
there's something there, is what I'm saying.
Maybe,
Maybe this
maybe.
is why hanging out with the lesbians could be good.
I mean, there's a whole world out there. You know, like I said, I'm not the pleasure lesbian coach. That's not me, but I'm sure there's somebody out there who you're going to have. And you'll be like, I interviewed Em Stroud. She's a comic coach. She happened to talk about lesbian sex. And you know what? It sparked me.
Okay, well, here's what I want to know. At least you don't have to
Go on.
draw a map to where the clitoris is, right?
That is really true.
Oh,
Exactly. You know?
I feel like that's half of my sex life. Not recently. My husband's great, but
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I
We
was
know that. He
dating.
can't iron, but he can do other good shit. So it's fine. Apologies for swearing, but it was exciting.
Oh, please do. Please do. We're plenty sweary on this show. You can't talk about women's health in midlife and not be sweary as far as I'm
No,
concerned.
no, no.
Okay, and before I come up with some other random shit to talk to
Yeah.
you about that maybe I shouldn't be mentioning, it'll be good fun. Somebody will get a chuckle out of it, and therefore
Yeah.
it's perfect. Well, this has been such an eye-opening conversation, and I like to say I never know where the conversations with my beautiful guests go,
Mhm.
but this is right up there with one of my favorites. So thank you for bringing the expertise that you did, but also really what I feel mostly, and this is for myself, I hope my community will feel the same way, is just permission to see the things that you already do as play. So
Mm.
you don't have to go, oh, I don't have time to do something that's so silly.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you should be doing something that is a little bit silly.
Yeah, exactly. And just on those really simple daily chores, you know, it's finding those little moments of joy, right? And, you know, if you are, I'll just use this as an example, if you're a competitive player and you've got your ninth load of laundry that you're dealing with, see how quickly you can put it all up and it all looks neat. You know, there's different things that you can do. And if you're a competitive player, it's like, right, I have 8 pairs of pants, 4 socks, and 2 trousers. How quickly can I hang it up? Put a stopwatch on, go. And you do it, and you've had a giggle. That's a moment of play.
Oh, so liberating. So
Mm.
liberating. Where can people find out more about you, please?
Uh, the easiest way to find out about me is mstroud.com. So it's emstroud.com. Everything that I'm doing is up there. It will also take you to the Leadership Impact School, which is both in person in London, but it's also, this is going to be going live next week, an online school where you can come and hang out with me all about impact and how you can have more impact and play and things like that. So there's an online school. And everything, my shows, my books are all on mstroud.com, and all my social links. And I'm pretty Googleable, because if you Google M Stroud, you'll find me talking as a banana and many other things. So there you go, mstroud.com.
Marvelous. Thank you. So my last question I have for all my guests
Yeah.
is this. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self?
It's all going to be extraordinary and wonderful. Just keep trusting yourself.
In the end, it's all just so simple, isn't it?
Mm.
Play and trust yourself. Thank you, M. Stroud, for this time together.
Thanks for having me.
The information and other content provided in this show, or in any linked materials, is not intended and should not be construed as medical advice, nor is the information a substitute for professional medical expertise or treatment. We are doctors, but we aren't your doctor. Seek your doctor's opinion. If you or any other person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical treatment. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have heard in this podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The opinions and views expressed on this page and in this show have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, health practice, or other institution. Thank you.